Hi, Craig Zuckerman with Z-Line Fitness, and today we are going to talk about the SI joint, or the sacroiliac joint, which is your hip bones, and how it can actually be the cause of your lower back pain, sciatica, and herniations, and what surprising things you may be doing throughout the day that are creating this joint to get off and create all these aches and pains. First, this is the spine. This is my spinal cord coming down from my skull through my body, and then it goes into my hip bones. And these hip bones are the sacroiliac, or the sacrum. And they are two completely separate bones, so they can glide up and down. They attach in the front right here, and you can see these joints here where they also are attached. If we are going to look in the back, you'll see this is the end of your spine, the coccyx area, and these are the two hip bones. Now, from here, there's a lot of very important muscles that connect. You have the glute muscles, which come out, and this is your leg bone cut off here, but the big glutes come down, medius minimus and glute maximus come down and attach to that femur bone and create movements in your femur. Above, you have this muscle, the QL, which can actually cause the hip bones to adjust up and down. And in the front, you also have this guy. I'm sure you've heard about, the psoas muscle. Attaches to the last four vertebrae, comes through the body, and then all the way down and attaches to the front of the femur. So it can help lift the leg up. It can also create side bending and also extension in the back. So kind of keep that curvature in your low back. So it's a big proponent in helping us sit with proper posture in our lower back and stabilizing our hip or SI joint, along with these other muscles, the QL. And another big thing that happens in our muscle that's a part of this, that's underneath this whole glute area back here, is the piriformis muscle. And the piriformis externally rotates your femur bone out, turns it out to the side. And this big sucker right here is your sciatic nerve. And it travels underneath, in most people, underneath this piriformis muscle. So if any one of these muscles kind of goes off the hinges and locks up or tightens up on you, it can offset the SI joint or compress the SI joint and create problems in things such as disc herniations and sciatica. And mainly because you see that big sciatic nerve I just showed you runs underneath that piriformis. If you get the piriformis muscle tightening up really tight, it presses down on the sciatic nerve, creating sciatica. Now, this can also be known as piriformal syndrome or fake sciatica, a lot of people talk about. And there's a reason for that, because the sciatic nerve generates in these last two discs. So these are these flesh-filled discs. So if you're looking in, it's like this fluid-filled disc here. The nerves from the central spinal cord come out right there. And if there's pressure on this disc and it can herniate, it'll pop out one side or the other like this, whoop, and it pushes against the nerve. And then that nerve comes out of here, runs down your leg, and then it will create sciatica because of the compression back here. But if this is the true sciatica, then it's really the sciatica that is happening from the last two vertebrae and compression in the nerve roots coming out of these last two vertebrae. Now, so that's going to be L4, L5, L5, S1 area. But the nerve can also be trapped or compressed from the piriformis that would create the sciatic nerve pain. And so they'll say that's fake sciatica. It's not really the nerve root that's having it, it's this muscle. But I find oftentimes the reason, okay, well, why is that piriformis going so tight? The piriformis externally rotates our hip. So why would that go crazy and tighten up? Well, the body oftentimes will tighten up one of these three main muscles, QL, iliopsoas, and this is the iliacus muscle. So the iliopsoas, or the iliacus psoas, iliopsoas come together, and this actually attaches right here. And this also aids in lifting the leg and tilting my hip. So the body will kind of go to one of these guys and tighten it up to stabilize this mobile joint of the SI, this hip that can move. So if there's a repetitive stress, something we do every day, day in and day out, that is offsetting or shifting this hip bone up, the psoas, the QL, the piriformis, one of these muscles will lock up and trying to pull the hip back into its place where it should be in a balanced situation, so that it takes the pressure off the nerves and it takes the undue pressure off the disc because it's being offset. So in order to correct sciatica or prevent lower back herniations and pain, it is essential that you balance and stabilize the hips. If these are off, then this is going to put undue pressure. One of these hips is going to be up. This vertebrae is going to be bent to the side. So it's going to be pressing down like this, and that's going to boop, pop that disc out the side and create all your pain and problems. And then the musculature is tied up and everything goes crazy. So we have to stabilize the hips. And you do that through inner thigh muscles, outer thigh muscles, front hip muscles, back hamstring muscles, and then you got to go above the joint. So up here to the obliques, which are these crossing muscles of the hip, your abdominal muscles, your six pack, your transverse muscle, which goes from your spine all the way around and pulls in kind of like a girdle or a weight belt to hold you together, and the erector spinae, which run up the back and exercise that too. And this is what I call counter muscle balancing. This is very important because if we exercise any one grouping of muscle that connects to a joint area without doing the opposing or opposite side muscles that are on the other end of that joint, then we have an imbalance. It'd be like if I'm always strengthening my bicep, but I never do any tricep work, which extends my arm the opposite way, I may weaken this joint because I'm only working one side or I'm only working one part of the shoulder. In fact, there was many studies done that found people that do crunches all day long, crunch, all this ab work, but never do back extension work and back work to strengthen the muscles that run up and down the back and in the lower back. They're actually far more prone to have herniations, lower back pain, and sciatica than if they just didn't do any ab exercises at all. Because now you're pulling all this thing down, you're pushing pressure into the low back and squirting the disc out the back, just like I was showing you, that whoop popping out like that. And you're not doing the opposite muscles to stabilize. So it's very important. I have also found that if one muscle, like for whatever reason, the brain's going to go to that one muscle and lock it down to try and protect the area or restabilize your hips. But when I stretch it, and that's the one thing the body's trying to do to help out and control what's going on, it will then, just freak out even more and tighten back up harder 1 to 2, 3 hours later, trying to restabilize the joint. It was trying to hold tight and prevent you from injuring any further. However, if I exercise all the muscles, front, back, side, above the joint, below the joint, hips, inner thighs, all this stuff together as a package, then the one muscle that the brain's kind of triggering to tighten up will let go because it realizes it has buddies. It has all these guys around it that are helping it out to stabilize, and the entire joint as a whole is getting stabilized so everybody can relax and chill out because everyone's working together to create stabilization and relieve pain. So that counter muscle balancing is essential when doing your exercise or doing workouts that are attempting to stabilize this joint area. So with this, we have the SI joint and all this, and this can kind of trigger some other things, hamstring tension. And this is where the body comes into counter muscle balancing. If my low back muscles, these muscles that are going to run up here, the QL is super duper tight or is locked up, then now the hamstring, which connects at the base of my glute, so down here on this bone and then goes down the back of my leg, that's going to tighten up in a tug of war to stabilize or balance my hip. And then you get these side problems. So how this relates to previous injuries that I was talking about earlier is in this way. So if I had a knee injury, say I hurt my knee really bad 4 or 5 years ago, and maybe I even had knee surgery, and after knee surgery, I couldn't fully straighten my knee. Well, if I can't fully straighten my knee, that's going to offset my hips. Let me show you how. So if I'm up like this, let me get this back, and now I have a knee that is slightly bent. Now this takes my hips and offsets them. Now it's going to drop that hip because this leg is shorter than the other one because I'm always having my knee slightly bent. That undue pressure pulls one hip up. So what will happen is with the one hip up, a lot of times this high hip, the hamstring will go crazy, or on the low hip, the back QL muscle or my psoas muscle will go really, really tight because it's trying to bring me back to where I'm stable and level and I don't have that pressure on my discs. So those muscles, if I keep stretching them and they're actually trying to pull me into alignment, I'm in a tug of war. I'm just going in a repetitive cycle trying to balance myself out. I need to strengthen those muscles to give me as much stability since I'm dealing with this imbalance in my hip due to the previous injury. I can put like a lift in my heel, and if I have a small lift in my heel that gives me, now bounces my hip back out since I can't fully straighten my knee, that may be a really smart thing to do if you've had this previous knee injury and you can't fully straighten your leg. But other things we do just in a daily thing, standing with our weight in one leg, like, when I do this, I'm just cool. You can't see my head, but hey, that little side stand thing, crossing our legs. So now I'm stretching that piriformis muscle that was just freaking out on me. And I'm also dropping my hip because I don't have my two legs to hold me up. So one hip's dropped down. If I'm always crossing this right leg all the time, then my back's always going to be out of position. My hip's always going to be pulled and twisted off. And eventually these muscles are going to freak out trying to balance me back, pull me back into homeostasis, and I'm going to have problems. So, you got to switch up your legs, which one you're standing on, which one you're crossing, or just don't cross at all. And we have videos on this. We have videos on sleep, because the way you sleep, how you twist your leg over, which side you're sleeping on, this can create SI joint instability and imbalance. Driving your car, we have another video on that, because the way you drive, you're always gas pedal, gas, brake, gas, brakes. You're working the inner thigh and the right hip flexor of just this one leg. This leg doesn't get it. So all these muscles get worked out and tight. That shifts your hip off. The SI joint's a real big problem. Another big thing is if I sit with a rounded back. Now, this area, because here are the glutes that are big over here and these big erector spinae. But when I sit with the rounded back, not only does it allow the disc to kind of pop out the back, but the weight of gravity comes down on my hip joint and it starts to slowly spread out. So if I'm sitting for long periods of time with all that pressure in my low back because I'm hunched over and rounded at my computer desk, and this starts to spread apart, that piriformis muscle which wraps across, or that glute muscle, you may be getting this, what you think is the lower back with this like upper glute area, like, because here's the top of my hip bone, it's pretty high. Right below it in that touche, in your tushy touche, that area, if you feel that epicenter of pain, that's these glute muscles tightening up, trying to bring your SI joint back together. And sitting is a big problem, because sitting and offsetting our weight, leaning off on the couch, got another video on that, on things on the couch, the way to sit. But that's why I have all these videos, because it's so important to find the things that we're doing daily that are offsetting parts of our body, imbalancing parts of our body, and creating this kind of pain. Now, I do have a much larger video series coming up on lower back pain relief. So it deals with sciatica, lower back pain, SI joint instability, disc herniations, and it's the whole package. So I threw everything in the kitchen sink from my 20 plus years of knowledge into this video. We're working on it right now. Hopefully get it out to you soon. If you're really interested, you can actually email me at craig@z-linefitness.com. Let me know you're interested. I'll keep your email address and send you out an email the second. Hey, I'll even send you a discount on it. The second we get this video up and ready to go. It's going to be a big course. So it's kind of explaining all this stuff, all the repetitive stresses, and not only just the basic exercise series to get you out of pain, but advancing that series to help you out. We even talk about chiropractors, acupuncture, and all these other different methods of pain relief and how they may help. So if you're into that, let me know, and I'll let you know when that video is up and ready to go. But back over here on the SI joint. So it's very important that we address these two things, and that is stabilizing our body and watching the repetitive stresses so that we get our hips. And now that you understand the knowledge of how these hip bones being off is the real culprit and creator of most of the lower back pain and herniations and problems we have, hopefully you will be more mindful of your environment and your surroundings and make changes to protect yourself and keep yourself out of pain. I'm Craig Zuckerman with Z-Line Fitness, helping you feel better, look better, and perform better.